And he says, Bill, he says, what I want you to do is to blow the whistle on this rotten, corrupt government. And he says, why don't you say something outrageous like we never went to the moon?
In Part A, I answered your question about who took the video of Armstrong coming down the ladder. Then I dealt with the equally ill-informed claim of the so-called waving flag. Next, I addressed this clip of a waving flag, which is a considerably more reasonable question, but which does have a very plausible explanation. Next, you brought up Scott's feather and hammer drop of Apollo 15 in your attempt to awaken and enlighten people like me. This demonstration was not primarily intended to prove the Apollo missions were real. That thought probably never crossed Scott's mind. It was just a cool way to illustrate a principle of physics which Galileo explained, but which had never been done anywhere but inside a vacuum chamber. Please excuse me if I spare the viewer from having to listen to Percy's pompous self-pluralizations and just use a couple of clips from his video that you used. Here he takes a clip from a movie to show that this can be faked. The clip, of course, had to be split in the middle, and feathers never fall straight down like that in air. It looks like a real feather, so it was probably weighted in the quill. Then Percy does his own demonstration to show how easy this is to fake. Of course, when you watch it fall, you can see that it's clearly not a feather, it's a solid object. It doesn't fall anything like a feather would in air. So, David, you and Percy have proven that it's possible to fake such a feather drop and then slow down the film so that it looks like it's on the moon. But in both cases, I was able to spot how it was faked. It seems like it would be your job to spot how this was faked. But, as I said, it's not intended to be proof that we went to the moon, so all you have done is show that it can be faked. I could make a fake video showing me kicking a 64-yard field goal, but that doesn't mean that it was faked for Jose Martinez in this college game. Get it?
Now, since there's really no real gravity on the moon...
What do you mean, no real gravity? You've already acknowledged that the moon's gravity is 1/6 of the Earth's. Do I smell straw?
And this is in space, and the moon is an orbit. Now, someone tell me, why did the hammer and the feather not float off somewhere eventually?
Well, I'd be more than happy to tell you, David, but considering how you've already presented yourself as someone with so much expertise that you're going to tell everybody else in the world the truth about the moon missions, I highly doubt that you ask that question with any intention of learning. Even though it's more elementary and more embarrassing than your question about who filmed Armstrong coming down the ladder, I will give it credit for being original. Now, you figure out why nobody else has ever come up with that argument before. Anyway, I'll be glad to answer it for you. You're probably confused by the fact that astronauts in orbit in their spaceships just float around. Well, they are in orbit around the Earth and in a state of free fall. The objects on the moon were not in orbit. They were lying on the surface of a rock with a mass of 81 quintillion tons. This is what causes the moon's gravity. If the moon didn't have any real gravity, everything would have floated off.
Now I know that Mythbusters, they did a special on debunking the crazy conspiracy theorists about the fake moon landing supposedly. But you know what? Here are two things wrong with the Mythbusters claim. First of all, they're in a controlled environment, a laboratory. Secondly, they did not go to the moon to carry out their experiments. So you know what? The Mythbusters are busted.
Busted? Really? Look, they were trapped on the Earth, and they did as good a job as anybody could possibly do down here, which is a hell of a lot more than you or any other hoax believer has ever done or even attempted to do. And Percy shows us, via your video, a demonstration of his own personal expertise in special effects and how they used wires to make this scene very believable. Watch out, George Lucas. Yep, Percy offers this as proof that wires can be used to make movements like the ones that we saw on the moon more believable. Sure, you can use wires to make it look like people moving on the moon to viewers who really don't know what it should look like, but you cannot use wires to make the dust behave the way it did. Of all the Apollo films, video, and photographs, hoaxers find only 2 places where there seems to be a flash of some kind above an astronaut.
And again, run slowly.
This is lens flare. It's very clearly lens flare. It occurs only when the astronaut's VHF antenna on the PLSS pack has a bright glint from the sun, and the picture is horribly overexposed. And in the other example, Percy shows you this, and you and other hoaxers absolutely believe that this is a wire. Using a 3-second segment from your own video, let's see if we can find some wires in the NASA Mission Control Room.
You can see a ping, a momentary glint. And again. And once more.
You went on showing more of Percy's claims about astronauts hanging from wires and... Whoa, wait, did you see that? Let's watch it again.
And again.
Okay, if there's anybody who doesn't get the point by now, maybe you should just go watch Sesame Street or something. Willywill84 goes on to promote more of Percy's stupid wire claims, but I wanted to deal with this one in particular because of its popularity.
We have an astronaut who is about to get up.
Give me a hand. Okay, here we go.
Let me give you a hand, he says.
No, John Young did not say, "Let me give you a hand." He said, "Give me a hand."
Give me a hand. Okay, here we go.
Let me give you a hand just generally means let me help you. Percy didn't want people to realize that he was actually talking about taking his hand and pulling him up. As Charlie did give John his left hand, and John used his right hand to pull Charlie up, as you can see if you watch the video closely. So this constitutes what I believe is a deliberate deception on Percy's part.
Look at it again. The astronaut is getting up with the wire taking the weight, relieving him of 5/6 of the Earth's gravity.
The wire's argument is, and always was, one of the stupidest ones. I guess the hoax believers think that if you dress it up and say it enough times, that'll make it more believable somehow. But if you take dog do and put it in a box, wrap it with pretty paper and a bow, it's still gonna stink just as bad. And now, Willywill84, David, I will close with your admonition, now that you have so clearly established your unassailable expertise on this subject.
They faked it so they can make themselves feel better and so they can pander to the mindless sheeple out there. It's time for you people to wake up about this nonsense.
After such an embarrassing demonstration of your utter lack of knowledge in this subject, I hope there aren't too many people who would take you seriously, which leads me to a comment you made at the end of your introduction.
These topics I will touch on will be the lie that is the moon landing, 9/11 was an inside job, the assassination of JFK, and, well, real solutions to the problems that we're facing right now.
Please, David, I beg you, let someone else work out the solutions to the real problems we're facing right now.
Outrageous. Outrageous.